Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wrap Up, where your Toronto Raptors beat the Indiana Pacers 97-94 in a game that barely qualifies as NBA basketball. We got today Manny and Kyle. Thanks for coming on the show, guys. Let me start there. Do you guys consider did this meet the parameters of an NBA basketball game for you, or did it fall short?
It definitely fell short for me. It was really weird. It was a really weird game. It was very sloppy. I felt like, I don't know how many turnovers there were. I'm just going to look right now. I guess there was, 20? There's like 34 turnovers between both teams. So a lot, I guess.
Just yuck. Yeah.
It was, and the refs were like, it was weird. They were calling nothing. I felt like there was a lot of contact that just went uncalled, but it's a complete 180 from what we're used to. So yeah, it was weird. It did not meet my expectations of what a standard NBA game is usually like, or how it's usually officiated or run. But
yeah, we're gonna get to the refereeing for sure. But before we do, Kyle, general impressions of this game, anything that stood out?
It was a tough one. I got to say, it's fitting that it's Halloween or the night before Halloween, because it was a nightmare tonight. Honestly, game was rough. Broadcast, I don't know how many of you guys on YouTube were watching a Canadian broadcast difficulties. Matt Devlin's in the Halloween spirit. He sounds like a demon.
He sounds like a cookie monster.
It was a tough night, but that doesn't mean we can't learn things from it. But it was a tough game to watch for sure. Second night of a back-to-back, you got to give him a pass.
Yeah, and that's worth mentioning, right? It was the second night of a back-to-back for both teams. Indiana also played last night, so I mean, it really felt like it. And also, like, those early seasons back-to-backs are even worse almost, because the teams they still don't have their conditioning right yet. So that was a really, really ugly basketball game. The Raptors somehow pulled out a win. It did end up coming down to the wire. If you look down like the lineup, you can't really say a lot of guys had like a good night. I'd say like Birch had one of his better games. Svi had one of his better games, and Scotty. I mean, let's start with Scotty, because it's getting to the point where Scotty's their most consistent player, right? It's like outrageous at this point. I just shake my head every time he makes a mid-range jumper. But like, why? How is Scotty just their most consistent offensive player already? Like, is this a cause for concern, or is this a good thing?
So when it comes to Scotty, I think he filled a hole that Pascal kind of left open on the offense. And I think what was expected was that OG was expected to, climb the ranks in terms of he was going to be that number one while Pascal was out. And then Freddie was going to be number two. But it seems like Scotty has completely surpassed people's expectations and many, many of our expectations as to how his rookie season would go. And it's only been, I guess this is the sixth game. So, or this is the seventh game, sorry. But, it's amazing. I guess the opportunity was there, and Scotty is clearly seeing buckets that he likes, and they're easy for him. And, he's strong. He goes in and attacks the paint. He's shooting from everywhere. Like, he's not shooting too much, but he's confident in his shot, which is the first step to getting his shot going and developing that shot for him. So he is, wow. I mean, he's making Masai, Bobby, and Nick Nurse look like they are geniuses, but it's not like we didn't know that before. It's just that this is another level of, I think, intellect that none of us ever knew would come into existence. Scotty Barnes, I can't say enough of him. He's able to get it done on both ends of the floor. The offense, I think he just is so capable of flowing into it so easily with Pascal out. And I think he just is seeing shots that he likes and seeing opportunities that he likes. So yeah, it's crazy. I think yeah, sorry. That's all I got to say.
Sorry. Kyle, you want to add anything?
Yeah, go we saw Suggs last night, and I think that Scotty was a controversial pick only because Suggs was supposed to be the man. And like the answer was always going to be the answer to the question, which player is going to turn out better. It was always going to be whoever goes to the Raptors, because the Raptors just have a better development team than Orlando. They have a better system than Orlando. They have a better culture than Orlando, etc. But I kind of assumed Scotty come in and just like outwork everyone, grab a lot of boards, like get little duck-ins and stuff. Did anyone predict that he would be able to shoot like this? It's unbelievable. I mean, like, it's crazy to see a guy who in college was basically a non-shooter with bad mechanics to someone. He's shooting like 50% nearly on pull-up jumpers in the mid-range, like on the season, which is incredible. And you got to give him credit. He steps up to the line to hit the game-sealing free throws. He's 1 for 4 on the night from the line, and he nails them both. And it's like it's nothing. He walks away like he's barely even bothered. So I mean, the kid's he's playing like a veteran out there. Might be the best player on the team.
Yeah. And that's what someone was saying in the group chat tonight. I do think like Pascal Siakam hasn't died. So Siakam is still gonna
the best
end
player on the
this.
team who's playing.
Yeah, I know you meant that, but I'm just saying like Raptors fans have said that. So I do think we can't forget about Siakam. Barnes obviously jammed his finger at the end of the game there, and I guess it's getting looked at. We won't know. Who knows? Hopefully it's nothing serious, because genuinely the team, like you guys just kind of said, they can't afford to miss him right now. Like if Siakam's not there, he's become such a huge part of this offense that they can't afford to miss him for any games. And that's the crazy thing. His usage is like up there. Like I think it's like 25 to 30%, which no one expected. Everyone expected him to be a defensive guy, 5th option on offense, fill in gaps when he could. But yeah, like the jump shooting is really weird, because that was the knock on him from a lot of draft experts. And, some of it is that he's rebuilt the jumper for sure. But the other part of it is that, like, as he talked about last night after the game, the spacing in the NBA is a lot different. And this is also something Sam Vecini from The Athletic kind of admitted in a podcast with Emmett Mann at Yahoo recently, that like in college, whenever he got the ball near the rim, he was seeing a lot of help and double teams. And that's why like his passing stood out, because he was making the right read out of those double teams a lot. Now, no one's double teaming him. Like Sabonis, if Sabonis is on him in the post, they're just going to leave Sabonis on him in the post. So he's reading it well and just being like, all right, I'm going to score then. And I guess he just didn't get to showcase the fact that he could score in college because there was so much help. Whereas now, I think it's more than anything him just like getting an opportunity to consistently have like one-on-one matchups, and he's taken advantage of every single one. It's wild. I was just saying to my friend today, like we were both saying like we'll never doubt Masai again, because I was on this podcast draft night being like, ooh man, like I trust the Raptors front office, but I don't know, like Suggs looks good, and I was super wrong.
Another thing about the college spacing is that like it wasn't only college spacing, it was like particularly bad college spacing. Florida State played with 2 traditional bigs. Like it's not like he was playing Gonzaga where they all these really thin shooters everywhere. Like Florida State was like a bunch of wings and bigs. Scotty was like, there was 0 spacing there. And the Raptors are, despite their shooting woes, there is pretty good offensive spacing. They play with a lot of good playmakers, guys with gravity.
No, that's a great point, and that's something I'm going to get to later when we do like a film session. Is that the Raptors don't have many great shooters, but the spacing isn't all that bad, and that's like you said at the beginning. Whoever went to Toronto was gonna have a better career. It's like you're right. The system is really putting Barnes in good positions to succeed, whether it's in transition or whether it's him getting the ball with a head of steam going downhill, or him as a screener in the pick and roll. They're putting him in really good positions to succeed. So credit to the coaching staff and Barnes. Other than him, who stood out to you guys tonight?
So I think without question, we touched on Svi Mykhailiuk. He played I think 21 minutes, and I saw some dunks, I saw some pretty big shots from Svi, but I didn't know that he hit. Sorry, having Matty D throat-like issues. But so I didn't know that he hit.
You've been hanging out with Matt Devlin.
Yeah.
You're mad at spending too much time together.
Too close.
So it's way too close. Not enough fisherman's friends. So I guess he had 16 points, and he got there efficiently on 6 of 10 shooting. So I remember, I think it was the first, maybe it was like a wrap cast with, or a wrap up with Zarar, or maybe it was Sahala and Zarar. But so I remember saying, why didn't we give Svi's minutes to, Malachi or something? I would have liked to see Malachi in. But now it seems to me like, okay, I'm starting to kind of, warm up to Svi. I guess he's starting to develop a rhythm. At least in this game, he definitely did. And, it wasn't just on offense. He was also there on defense. He was closing out. I felt like he was really hustling. And so it's weird because it was like the last game, you see Gary Trent and he's diving for loose balls and he's, really going at it, throwing himself all over the court. And then I feel like this game, you saw Svi do that in different parts of the game, like really getting at it. And I think that it's such a cool theme to have like I guess like a different player do that in each game almost, it feels like. But I really liked what I saw from him. I think, his minutes and, what he was able to do with them, like I think he definitely used them to the fullest of his abilities. And I mean, if he's gonna fight and claw and scratch for these minutes, like plug him in. I mean, I think without question, Svi had a great game tonight.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said. What I will say is that like it's a really bad sign for the Raptors that Svi is basically like they need Svi to desperately need Svi to carry the offense for like 3 minutes at the end of the second quarter. Like that's a really bad sign for the Raptors offense.
Yeah, but
all credit to Svi, but like they couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, it was a back-to-back though, and I think this is kind of what you need on back-to-backs. Like for teams that don't have superstars, I think like you kind of need someone from the bench to take an elevated role. And in the first half, Svi kept them in the game. Like that's not an exaggeration to say. Like he definitely tapered off in the second half. He didn't even play much. But in the first half, like, yeah, it's not a great sign. The Raptors offense is not good. We know this, but he was just making plays in the first half, and it really kept them in the game before OG and Fred could kind of step up in the second half and Barnes and kind of take them home. Before we get to the officiating stuff, Kyle, why don't you start us off talking about Precious and Goran? Okay, when you just mentioned that it is weird to me also that Svi is getting in the lineup and Malachi and Goran are both not, because before today Svi was just he hadn't had a good start to the season. Precious, like I mean I'm gonna let you talk first, but his last 2 games have been an abomination. But yeah, like what did you have to say about the Kyle sign and trade? Do you have any hot takes for us, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to say anything too hot, especially because you've already said on this podcast, like, you'll never doubt Messiah again. But I mean, and no one, even Blake doesn't have the insider information about what was offered at the trade deadline versus what was offered at, in free agency and a sign and trade. So it's hard to speculate on what the haul would have been had they traded Lowry last trade deadline. But the return right now is not looking good. I mean, Precious he's promising, and he's had a couple off games. I still believe in him, but Dragic isn't playing, and I don't really think he should be playing. I kind of agree with I 100% agree with Nurse's decision to basically sit him for younger guys, not only because it's good for the development of younger players, but like Delano's outplaying him. Even Flynn had like a cameo appearance tonight. He had 3 minutes and didn't even put a shot up. That was almost better. At Lumpy Rex, I'd say that's a bit of an exaggeration, but Flynn is even Flynn, I think, is giving better minutes than Goran when he touches the floor. Because I mean, Goran really doesn't offer much defensively. He brings some rim pressure, like you mentioned last night, Manny, but he's not even really a plus shooter. I think they got to move on from this guy as soon as possible. If there's an offer for Goran, they should take that ASAP.
So here's the thing about like I think it was I still think that the jury's out on this trade. I don't think we can judge it right now. But with that being said, up to this point, if we're gonna judge it, the one thing about like yes, Dragic is clearly fallen out of the rotation, and like Kyle said, it's probably for the better because the young guys are really providing a lot of energy, a lot of hustle, and they just want to get at it. But when it comes to Precious, the thing that I'm finding is happening way too often is that maybe twice a quarter, he will have the tendency to go coast to coast and, not even think twice about passing it. He just goes coast to coast and takes it right to the rim. And it's not what he should be doing because he's not at that level yet where he's given, I don't think the coaching staff is like, yeah, go for it. I don't know.
There was a moment in the third when Delano bringing the ball up, passed the ball to Precious in transition, and Alvin exclaimed, "No!" on the broadcast.
Really? So that's the thing is like that's the it's weird because like I think Precious, he's shown flashes that he can be good and that he will be good and he has the body for it, but the tendency to just go coast to coast and not pass the ball. I don't know I don't know where that came from. I don't know if that was like a theme in Miami that we weren't aware of, but I mean, that's something that's just not going to work with this team and this system. I mean, especially when you have, I would say he's probably the fifth option on the court, when he's sharing it with Gary Trent, Fred, Scotty, OG, and eventually when Pascal comes back, he's going to be, the fifth option on the court. But I think Precious is having a weird transition phase. I don't know what's going on, but it's definitely that tendency to go coast to coast twice a quarter for me is just, it's driving me insane.
Yeah, I mean, I'll address what both of you are saying real quick. Scotty got an X-ray, nothing. So yeah, honestly, thank God. Back to what you guys were saying. Starting with Goran, I totally agree with you, Kyle. I don't think he has earned the right to be in the rotation from what we've seen so far. And I think, there's a young team. Let's play the young guys. I'm all for like they got to trade him as soon as possible if there's a trade out there. If not, I mean, I don't think they want to buy him out. So I think this could definitely linger till the deadline. With Goran just sitting on the bench, which would be unfortunate, but it kind of is what it is. He's not a good fit in this system. I don't think he's like a bad player necessarily, but he's not a good fit in the system. I'm still like, it's not only about what they maybe could have got at the deadline. It's also about they could have just let Kyle walk and spent that money on, Rashawn Holmes is the name you will hear in Raptors Republic fan. What's it called? Whatever. But like, they could have done that. I've been impressed with Precious. Obviously, the last two games I haven't. It hasn't been good. But like preseason in the first couple of games, he's shown a lot of intriguing skills for a 6'9" big man. And I've said since the start of the season, I want Khem in the starting lineup. I think like a real quick aside on Khem Birch is that he had one of his better games tonight. He's just kind of gotten better and better since he's getting his conditioning back from getting COVID. And, like $6 million a year was a contract people were complaining about in the offseason for Khem Birch. I think it's completely fine. I've always felt that way about him. I think he fits the system and the personnel really, really well. And I just don't understand why he's not starting, I guess. Like Precious does these things that you guys mentioned way too often. And it's way more okay on the bench when you're beside Delano and Svi and whatever. Like, but when you're beside, like you said, OG and Fred and these guys, it's a lot worse to see Precious go coast to coast and take his own number or call his own number. Like you think he's the fifth option. He does not think he's the fifth.
Yeah, no, he thinks he's number one. It's like, to put it lightly, it's kind of infuriating, but
I mean, there's also a confidence level you have to respect, right? Like, that's one of the hardest things to have in this league is the confidence to like call your own number. So,
and he's only in his second year.
Yeah, nurses also said like it's easier to pull guys back than to get them going. So they definitely have to pull him back. I agree with you guys. But I just think it's more so a case of like, this is a second year guy who played 12 minutes a game last season. He's not ready to be a starter, but put him with the bench. I think he'll look a lot better. And 5 years from now, I really like his upside.
The other thing about Birch, like you mentioned, Precious doesn't know he's the number one option. Birch's biggest skill is that he knows he's like the 15th option on the team.
Yeah.
Like there's no one in the entire roster who's higher above him in the shot distribution because he's a roll and cut big. He knows his role.
Yeah.
And he excels in it. That's a huge skill to just have a guy who's 100% willing to buy into doing just the dirtiest work for very little flashy reward or anything like that.
Yeah, in fact, to a point where sometimes it frustrates me because Khem actually has really good touch in that like push shot floater range, and he never takes the shot. He's always looking to pass. And I actually think that sometimes he should shoot a little bit more. But yeah, it'll be interesting when Siakam gets back because there's no way they can play Precious with Siakam. So either they're going to roll out a small ball lineup, or I think maybe Khem comes to the starting lineup. I don't know, but I just don't think it's attainable to play Siakam next to Precious.
I think, and we alluded to this last night, I think that you're really going to see Pascal play the 5. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to see I think Precious will be relegated to a bench role.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of called the same thing. I think they'll probably actually no, I think Gary Trent will probably go to the bench, but it's anyone's guess at this point. I want to talk about the officiating, and it's not just, I don't know how much NBA you guys have been watching outside of the Raptors, but it's not just the Raptors, it's across the league. Officials aren't really calling much this year. A lot of fouls are happening, and they're just not being called in. Like from a consumer standpoint, I think it's enjoyable, just like much quicker games, less stop and go. It is more enjoyable in that sense, but at the same time, you see like you're the team you root for just get blatantly fouled and there's no call, and so it can be frustrating too. Manny, I know you want to talk about this. So how do you feel about the new rules?
I find them to be interesting. Like this game in particular, I think was one of the games where it was just way more evident than others. And forgive me because I didn't mark down any timestamps or anything like that in the tape, but. On one hand, like you said, as somebody that watches the league, it makes the gameplay flow much quicker. It's a lot, it's a lot easier to watch it. You're not as annoyed because there's not as much game stoppage. But at the same time, you're looking at these plays and you're seeing there's some very obvious contact being drawn, and it's like, man, like how did you not call that? But I mean, hey, at the same time, it's a lot of this new rule that's been implemented is if shooters create contact, it's not a foul. If the offensive player creates contact, the way you see James Harden, for example, the way he's like his game has completely changed. Him and Trae Young, it's pretty crazy to see those two guys and their games. It completely has changed, but. Yeah, this game was weird. This game was sloppy, but then also just very, very different in terms of the officiating because there wasn't much called where I feel like there should be, there should have been plays called or should have been fouls called.
Yeah, Kyle, your thoughts?
Honestly, I think we're all in an adjustment period right now. It's going to take a while to figure it out, but I'm generally in favor for it. Everything that speeds the game up, I'm in favor of rather. Like yeah. I actually love baseball, but I don't have 4 hours, especially they play in the middle of the day, but whatever. I don't have
you're a busy guy
period from
you're
7 to 11 p.m. where it's just like I'm just going to do nothing but watch baseball. The reason basketball is so appealing to people is that it's like 2.5 hour game, it's over, it's easily digestible, and you get to go and watch some guys on YouTube talk about it afterwards without being ready to fall asleep when it's done. So whatever speeds the game up, let's do it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm with you generally, but I do feel for James Harden because he's perfected a lot of these moves where his offhand is grabbing the ball and he's shooting, and these are moves that he's worked on for years, and all of a sudden it's just no longer called. That has to be tough. But at the same time, as a viewer, as an unbiased viewer, it is better now to watch. And I also think the Raptors, this absolutely benefits them. This physical style of play is absolutely in their favor because they're a defensive team that's structured around ball pressure and getting into guys' bodies. And without like a traditional rim protector, it's a bunch of guys like crashing into the paint on drives. And the Raptors, I think, have kind of been fortunate. And also on the other side of the ball, they don't have any guys who are like consistent foul drawers, get to the free throw line. So I think for the Raptors, these rules are helping. But yeah, listen, people, most of you should probably not be doing taxes yourselves. You guys, you're not all that smart, and we're in a pandemic with a lot of government spending going on, and this is a good opportunity to save money. So maybe it's time to hire someone who actually knows what they're doing when it comes to your taxes. So who should you hire, you ask? Well, of course, you should hire canamtax.com. Go to canamtax.com and get your taxes done real quick, real easy. Can-Am, baby. Woo. Everyone should go do it. That's the best place to get your taxes done this year, everyone. So thanks for supporting the show. Go to canamtax.com. Guys, I got to ask you, who is your taxman of the night? And taxman of the night in this case is a good thing because they're helping us save money. So I listened to the pod last night. I know what I'm talking about here. Taxman of the night. Who we got, guys?
Kyle, I'm gonna let you go first because I don't know what the hell I was doing last night when they didn't ask me the same question. I picked Mo Bamba and I was wrong. So I don't know, man.
I gotta go, Fred. He keeps bailing out. It's like, you know what it is? It's the fourth quarter of the business year. It's like April 20th. He comes in. No one's filed their taxes. He comes in. He takes like 20 minutes and looks at my T4 and everything, and he mails it off. It takes no time at all. I mean, the guy like he keeps like basically stinking it up like for 2 quarters, starting to heat up in the third, and he bails us out in the fourth every game. So give it to me, Fred. And he bet on himself. So
yeah, that's a great one. Fred VanVleet, congratulations. If you're watching the show, you are our taxman of the night. If you're in the cold tub watching the show, you're the taxman of the night. No, I think that's a good point. He's been really impressive to me to start this season. We didn't really talk about him tonight because it wasn't really one of his best games, but yeah, they were showing a lot on the pick and roll tonight, and that kind of tells you all you need to know about how dangerous Fred is to them. Like, a lot of guys didn't have it going. Fred didn't really even have it going, and they were still like showing and doubling him on the pick and roll. So, and he made really good reads out of that, usually getting it to like Birch, and then Birch was also making good reads out of the free throw line area. So the Raptors, they got a lot of kind of easy offense on that. I don't know if that was the best strategy from Indiana's perspective, but Fred VanVleet has been a beacon of consistency to start this season on both ends of the floor. And, he's averaging almost 8 assists this season, by far a career high for him. So I've been really pleased with what I've seen. Anything to add to that, or should we move on? Okay, so let's do some film. Let's do some film breakdown, guys. I only have a couple clips here, but I mean, do you want to start with the good or the bad? I'll ask that.
Start with the bad.
Let's start with the bad, Chris. If you want to also join us, Chris, please feel free. The bad is Chris Boucher. The bad is Chris Boucher just walking to get this ball and then standing here and not contesting either one. And then really late getting out and just getting bailed out by a missed 3. But this is why Chris Boucher has been struggling to get its like lineup minutes. It's not because he's not skilled. Like, he has a lot of really intriguing skills. But it's just like lapses in judgment, I guess you could say. Like, you got to hustle. And then once you lose the ball, you lose possession. You got to contest one of the 2 people. Like, you can't just stand in no man's land.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a weird season, at least the start of the season. I mean, last year I think he was expected to just kind of be a spark plug, and like I said this last night too, his role I think is kind of more defined now, whereas last year he was like the unquestioned second best big man on the team. But this year, the expectations are different, and so I think, he's kind of being he's kind of being confined, I think, a little bit more. He's kind of being like, what's expected of him is different from what was expected of him last year. So I think that sorry.
Thank you, John. John is coming to the rescue for Oren.
I think that he's just having a tough time to start the season. Now, there's been some boneheaded plays for sure, but at the same time, I think he's still figuring his role out more than anything.
Yeah.
That's a good insult. A dunderhead. Haven't heard that one in a while.
Zarar like rides for Chris Boucher. That's his favorite player. He did contest the shot, but so late. Like he just stood in no man's land. He should have stepped up to one of the play. Like I get that he was cutting off the drive, right? But once he saw that whoever this was got back, I think it's Svi. He takes so long to recognize that and then get out to the corner.
I think he was waiting for that because I think he was like, he didn't see Svi coming. Maybe he didn't see Svi coming, and then he's like, well, if I leave, then like I go contest that guy. Then it's like, okay, I totally left this guy wide open for a layup. But then if like I leave this guy, he's wide open for a 3, and he could even go for a layup on the baseline. I mean, I could understand it, but I see your point as well.
Yeah, I hope Boucher turns it around a bit, but the system is pretty different, I think, than last year, at least offensively, and I just don't think he's found his rhythm in it yet. But maybe he will. He's a pretty experienced player at this point, so he should be able to. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to some good. So I'm quickly going to plug a story I'm writing for Yahoo on Monday, kind of about the Raptors offense, but basically it's pretty different than last season. They're doing a lot of work in their posts, especially with Scotty and OG. So here, Fred cuts across the baseline, and he sets a screen for Scotty. They want to switch. They don't get the switch, but it doesn't really matter because it gives Scotty enough room to get the ball in a really good position here under the net. And I think that's O'Shea on him, and he still gets like Scotty in the post is automatic somehow this season. Like you can't stop him. But yeah, like it's stuff like this that the Raptors have been running. A lot of off-ball screens compared to last season. We saw like none of this kind of stuff, and a lot of dictating mismatches to get stuff in the post for OG and Scotty especially. So yeah, I just really like there was a lot of like Nick Nurse hate a couple back when we were like, I don't know, 1-3 instead of 4-3 just a few short days ago. And so I was really watching the offense and seeing like, how are they like, they're like the 12th or 14th offense in the league, which doesn't sound great, and it's not great, and it'll go down after today because it was just gross today. But without considering they lost Kyle Lowry and lost Pascal Siakam, their two best offensive players, it's just like, how are they doing this? How are they replicating what those guys bring? And it's stuff like this, like to simplify it.
Yeah, I mentioned last night they ran a similar like Scotty Fred little pick set after a timeout on the baseline in the fourth quarter, and there's something there. I'd like to see maybe run this at the top. Let Scotty handle the ball a little bit, like kind of what they do in Golden State with Draymond and Steph. I mean, obviously these two players are a lesser version of those two legends, but I mean, it's a similar concept. I also let's give credit to Delano. This is a hard pass to make. Jeremy Lamb's like 6'7". I think that's Jeremy Lamb, and that's part of the reason Nurse likes Delano is because the guy he's tall and he can see above the defender, and he's got such a knack for threading his passes. He had one to Birch earlier. He's had a couple games where he really gets the ball into those tight windows quickly. Yep. He's like Aaron Rodgers. He's like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think that in terms of these kind of passes, it's also a matter of Scotty just being so much stronger than your typical rookie. And so being able to plan or at least create a play like this or run a play like this for a guy like him, it's like, if you have somebody like him with his frame of body and his wingspan, I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer to run a play like this. And, these off screens, I think you're going to see much more of them. But I think teams are eventually going to read into it and start to game plan. But, I mean, that just opens up somebody else on the outside for shooters. So all in all, this is pretty solid play and a really good game plan, I think.
It's hard to game plan though, because you would say switch the screen is the easiest game plan to avoid getting Scotty as good positioning, but you switch the screen and then it's, I don't know, is that Karis LeVert or Aaron, like Holiday? I think those guys are even smaller than O'Shea Brissett. So that's the issue.
So Scotty could just
switching
body
it.
them.
Right.
So
So
that's the
and then the Delano part of it is that playing 5 guys who can all pass and who are all pretty smart players at the same time just like bails you out of a lot of bad situations. And like, yeah, he's a really, really good playmaker, but in general, like you'll also see Delano set these off-ball screens like impromptu, not even written up. And it's just like having smart players on the floor really, really goes a long way. And that's really more than anything to me, their draft philosophy is like high feel and like high work ethic. And like, we'll go from there.
And that's also tremendous. And just to touch on Delano quickly, it's also tremendous value from the 46th pick in the draft. I mean, to have that feel for like the court, to have that feel to just like be able to make those smart plays. I mean, honestly, it's immense value for a guy that was picked 46th and to already be playing, like he's in the rotation, and I'm so happy he's in the rotation.
Yeah, it's almost like the draft is a crapshoot and half the teams don't know what they're doing. But
it's very much so. Yeah.
Lucky we have Masai, who Ed Rogers tried to screw over and kick out of our city. But luckily we have him still, and we're blessed. We're just blessed to have him.
Absolutely.
Any closing thoughts for you guys or anything to plug away at? Go ahead.
I will quickly plug.
How'd you do tonight? I'll ask the question.
So I did by default because the odds makers selected Indiana to win this one by 1.5 points. I said go with Toronto on the money line. Nice. And I by default the point spread didn't even matter because Toronto won. So I said Toronto, and I said over 212. So I don't think, what was the score? Sorry,
no. I think it's like 97, 192 total or something.
Yeah, so they didn't get that. I said go over 212. They did not do that. So I'm again 2 for 3. This is the third night in a row that I'm 2 for 3. So I mean, it's the second time I'm wrong on the over-under, and it's the, I believe, second and third time, respectively, that I'm right about the point spread by default and the money line. So, we're building something here. We're building something here. So, on that note, if you didn't know, guys, I have a show called The Lineup. It's a pregame that talks about obviously betting, and it looks at things that the Raptors can do to win, as well as what the lines are. And I just tell you what I think you should do and what I think will happen in the game. So it usually comes out at around 2 p.m., 3 p.m. every game day. So be on the lookout for that. And take a look at that. I just put one out earlier today, obviously. So it's called The Lineup, and you're going to see my face a lot, and sometimes I'll be right, sometimes I'll be wrong. I've yet to be perfect, but the team at RR has my back, and that's all that matters.
You're going to get it one of these days. You're going to get it 100%.
One of these days.
No one really could have predicted this shit show of a game, so don't hurt yourself too much tonight.
That's right. Yeah.
Kyle, how about you?
No, nothing to plug. Follow us on Twitter. I'm going to say I'm going to pray that the games are better moving forward. I want to watch better basketball. That's my plug.
Monday, we're in New York. Monday, the Raptors are in New York, so that's going to be a good game. I think New York.
RJ. We saw Chris Duarte tonight is from Montreal. RJ. Yeah.
I mean, RJ had a career high 39 tonight.
Yeah, RJ, and he locked up DeMar DeRozan last night. Chris
Duarte looks good. I know he's Dominican nationality-wise right now, but he's grew up in Montreal. Like that's the type of guy I'd like to see on Team Canada. I mean, this like where they need a big guard. I'd
They need
give him the
shooting.
minutes over Corey Joseph.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh my God. Give honestly, I could take the minutes over Corey Joseph. And I could get you like 7. I could get you 7, 3, and 2 with 4 turnovers.
That's a good way to end it.
Are you gonna be? Are you gonna?
Don't
Are
let
you gonna be
anyone
at the
comment. End the
3-on-3
stream right now.
I will. Will you guys be at the 3-on-3 tournament?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Hopefully you don't see any Corey Joseph in my game because
Hopefully
he
not.
was not good at that tournament.
All right.
Anyways, thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Thank you to all the viewers for watching. We really appreciate you. Thank you to Can-Am Tax for sponsoring the show. Thank you to producer Chris Howson-Jan for producing everything and getting those clips up and just making everything run smoothly behind the scenes. We appreciate you, Chris. We'll see you next time, which will be, I believe, on Tuesday. I'm just going to double check right now. Yeah, Monday, when the Raptors take on the New York Knicks. Hopefully we can get like a viral video created, but on the other side where Knicks fans are really upset rather than being too happy. They're too happy right now, but no, it's good to see. All right. Good night. And everyone go celebrate Halloween.